Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Ask an Action Coach. I'm Joseph Muenich. I work in business development at ActionCOACH of Wisconsin. As always, I'm here with Coach Jackie Zach. Jackie is an executive and business coach with ActionCOACH of Wisconsin. And this week, Jackie, we're continuing talking about those 5 numbers that you want to track in order to grow your business. And I believe this time we're talking about the number of transactions. I'm not a business owner, so I was wondering if you can kind of give us an overview of what are the number of transactions and how do you even go about beginning to track those kinds of numbers?
That is an awesome question. That's a question I get a lot. So, number of transactions, what that says is how often or how many times in a year, and you can track it by week or month or day or whatever you want, but over the course of time, how many transactions, let's say in a year, does somebody do with you? Right? That's what that really means. And once you know that number, then you can improve it. So that's the beauty of all of these numbers is once you know it, once you know how you're measuring it, you can work to improve it.
So it's
Right?
not so much like how many transactions overall, it's how many times like Joe Shopper would come to your store in a year.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So it's how many times each individual person or business buys from you in a year.
Okay. All right.
That's what that's all about. Yeah. So thanks for clarifying that. Yep. So with that said, the number of transactions, measuring it, I get this a lot. I don't even know how to go about measuring it.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about measuring it. If you are not measuring it, today's the day to start, right? So let's talk about if your business sends out monthly invoices.
Okay.
If your business sends out monthly invoices, that says that you are doing that 12 times a year. So they're buying from you 12 times a year. Now, the rub comes in if you're sending one person multiple invoices, right? So if you're sending every month, you're sending someone 3 invoices, you can track it as they're buying from you monthly, once a month, or you can track it in terms of they're buying from you 3 times a month. You just want to be consistent.
Okay.
So in the course of time, if you're talking about a year, if you're counting it as 1, they're buying from you 12 times a year. If you're counting it as 3, they're buying from you 36 times a year.
Okay. Mhm.
So it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. Now, I would say to simplify it, you may want to just say, I invoice them once a month, so they buy from me 12 times a year. And it doesn't matter how many invoices you send out. So if that's the case, then that's a pretty easy measurement to do, right?
Yeah.
Because then on average, everybody buys from you 12 times a year.
Right.
However, if you are, let's say, a retail establishment or somebody who buys from you periodically, right? The best way to do that is to start keeping track of their purchases. So this is where your point of sale or your POS comes in.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you're putting people in using your point of sale system to not only help you track customer information, but also to track what they're buying from you.
Okay.
And if you're not doing that, today's a good day to start because you can then use that information to market to them. You can use that information to say, you buy this certain thing. I have something similar. Let me tell you about it. So part of this is keeping track of what you as much information about your customers as you can, and using that information to help you market to them more. Now, a lot of people will say to me, I don't like keeping track of my customers' information, or I don't know the best way to do that without them feeling like I'm invading their privacy. Well, some ways to answer that are, you know what? I'm hanging on to this because we send special invitations out to you in the mail, right? And we
Sure.
don't want you to miss out.
Sure.
That's something, right?
Yep.
So part of this is getting out of your own head about collecting people's information. But if you're not collecting people's information and collecting information on what they're buying from you, there's a lot of money you're leaving out on the table. So if you don't have a point of sale system, let's say you just have, let's say something like QuickBooks, right? Or Peachtree or some kind of accounting software.
Okay.
You can also keep track of their purchases and their information in that. Or if you have a CRM of sorts that helps you track that information, you can use that too. If you have nothing, and there are a few people out there who do, so if this is you, I would say start to keep track of these things manually. But the sooner you can get automated, the better, because that time is better used somewhere else that it's taking you to track all the information by hand. Okay. So people say, well, but it costs money to buy something automatic. Yes, it does. But you are going to be able to make more money if you do that.
Right.
So those are just a couple of things, ways to track. But why the number of transactions is important is as you're looking at them, how do you get people to come back one more time? So in my own business, when I had my store, what we did was we added cooking classes and cooking demonstrations. What that did was we could invite them and they could come back in one more time. They paid to take the class, and most of the time everybody bought whatever we used in the class. So that was an idea. If you're having something, a special event, you can bring them back in one more time. So that's why the number of transactions is important and why you should start testing and measuring it today.
So when I go to the farmer's market and they have one of those little square readers and it
Yes.
says, do you want me to email you the receipt? They've already got my email because of that little square reader. So that's kind of like a point of sale system, right?
Yes, yes. And I think, and I don't quote me on it, but I think if you use Square, if you put your information in as a customer,
Yep.
And at whatever place, when somebody else is using it, your information is already there.
Yep. It seems
So
like
that it
that's
pulls
right.
up, and yes. So that's the other way to track it. It's the key is are you tracking it, and what are you doing with that information to get people to buy from you one or two more times a year?
Now I understand why, I go to a lot of greenhouses in the spring, but just the other day I got an email from a greenhouse saying we're having a Valentine's Day special and why don't you come on in? And so yeah, they're trying to get me to come in one more time. And
Right. And that's an excellent example of how you can use the number, why you track it, why it's important, and how to use it. That's a perfect example.
well, awesome. Thank you so much for making this clear to even me. I really appreciate it, Jackie. If you're out there and this is like lighting a light bulb over your head, why don't you go ahead and reach out to us if you want to figure out how you can get your customers to make more transactions at your establishment. Set up a free complimentary business strategy session with Jackie. All you got to do is click on the link above and you'll fill out a quick little form and we'll be in touch to make it happen in your calendar. So thank you again, Jackie. This was really enlightening.
Awesome.